Good morning. Today we are working on our first objective of our next unit. We are doing PO20. I can identify whether a number is divisible by 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, or 10. These are important rules to know so we don't have to go and do the math every single time. We can just follow the rules and it goes a lot quicker to know if they're divisible by these numbers. We will be coming across useful objectives that we want to know this in. So make sure you are not only writing down these rules as I go through them, but you're actually practicing them and knowing them. So, the rule for knowing if a number is divisible by 2 is if the number is even. If it's an even number, if it ends in 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0, it is divisible by 2. That's the easy one. If it's divisible by 3, is if the sum of the number's digits is divisible by 3. So what that means is if our number is something like 396, I would say, okay, 396, 3 plus 9 is 12, 12 plus 6 is 18. I know 18 is divisible by 3, because 18 divided by 3 is 6. So 396 is a huge number, not sure if it's divisible by 3, but if I add up all those digits, finding the sum means we're adding, add up the digits, then it comes to a much smaller number that I can recognize if it's divisible by 3. Or to see if it's divisible by 4, the rule is if the number can be divided by 2 twice. So if it's an even number, we know it's divisible by 2. Then we need to see if the next number, if we divide it by 2, we find half of the number, if that is divisible by 2. So if we look at a number like 250, if we divide that by 2, half of that is 125. 125 is not divisible by 2 again, because it ends in a 5. So that means that 250 is not divisible by 4. In order to be divisible by 4, we have to be able to divide it by 2 times. If it's divisible by 5, is if the number ends in a 5 or a 0. So if the number ends in a 5 or 0, it is divisible by 5. That's one of the easier ones, just like for 2. It's a little bit easier for 2 and 5 and the 10. For 6, if it's divisible by 6, is if the number not if the number, if 2 or 3, not 2 or, 2 and, if 2 and 3 goes into the number, it's divisible by both 2 and 3. So we have to see first, is it an even number? And if it's an even number, we have to add up all the digits and see if it's divisible by 3. So if it's divisible by both of those, like let's look at the number, well, if we look at 396, That 396 that we used for if it's divisible by 3, it's an even number. It ends in a 6, so we know it's divisible by 2. And we know it's also divisible by 3. So if it's divisible by both 2 and 3, then it is also divisible by 6. For the 9, we need to see if the sum of the numbers digits is divisible by 9. So if I take that same number, 396, I added up those digits, and it was the 18. 18 is divisible by 9, so it is also, 396 is also divisible by 9. So again, just like with the 3, you add up all of those digits. If it's divisible by 9, the total of those digits, and then the original number is divisible by 9. Just like finding if it's divisible by 3. For the 10, like I said, is one of those easier ones. So it's divisible by 10 if the number ends in a 0. So if the number ends in a 0, it is divisible by 10. So let's look at how we're going to use this. So I'm going to, let's look at that 42. It says determine whether the number is divisible by all of these numbers. List all that apply. So what I do is I'm going to write each of those numbers, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10. And I'm going to check to see if these numbers, if they're divisible by it. So, I'll move my 9 and 10 over a little bit. I look at my 2. So the rule is it an even number? Yep, 42 ends in a 2. It is divisible by the 2. Is it divisible by 3? 4 plus 2 is 6. So 6 is divisible by 3. So 42 is divisible by 3. Now I need to look, is it divisible by 4? Well, I can divide it by 2, and I get 21. Half of 42 is 21. Is 21 divisible by 2 a second time? So it ends in a 1. So 42 is divisible by 2, but 21 is not divisible by 2. So 42 is not divisible by 4. If I look at my 5, the 42 must end in a 5 or a 0. It does not. So it's not divisible by 5. The rule for the 6 is if I have the 2 and the 3 circled, I can circle that 6. It's automatically, if I can divide it by 2 and 3, I know it's also divisible by 6. Is it divisible by 9? When I add that 4 and 2 together, I get a 6. 6 is not divisible by 9. And for the 10, does it end in a 0? It does not end in a 0. So I look at which numbers I circled. I circled the 2, the 3, and the 6. So I know that my number is divisible by 2, 3, and 6. So I'm going to rewrite those in my answer so I can clearly show what numbers it is divisible by. Let's do one more together. Look at the 360. So I'm going to write all of my numbers, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10. So I'm going to go through each one. For the 2, is it an even number? Does it end in 2, 4, 6, 8, or 0? It does end in a 0. So I'm going to circle my 2. For the 3, I need to see what the sum of those numbers are. Well, 3 plus 6 is 9. 9 plus 0 is 9. So 9 is divisible by 3. 9 divided by 3 is 3, so I'm going to circle that 3. All right, is it divisible by 4? Well, if I divide the first time, 360 divided by 2 would be 1, let's see, 2 goes in there once, 1. So that would be 180. 360 divided by 2 is 180. Now I need to see, is it divisible by 4? So can I divide 180 by 2 again? It ends in a 0. So I know it is divisible by 2 again, because it's that even number. So I'm going to circle my 4. Is it divisible by 5? Well, does it end in a 5 or a 0? It does end in a 0. So it's divisible by 5. Is it divisible by 6? Well, did I circle my 2 and my 3? I did, so I know it's divisible by 6. Is it divisible by 9? When I added up all of my numbers, I got the 9. 9 can be divided by 9. 9 divided by 9 is 1, so it's divisible by 9. And is it divisible by 10? Does it end in a 0? Yes, it does. So look at that. This is actually a number that is divisible by all of my numbers. So I'm going to write all of my numbers and circle them. So every single one of these numbers, you are going to write out 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 9, and 10. You're going to go through every rule to see, is it divisible by it or not? If it is divisible by it, you circle it. If it is not divisible by it, you cross it off. And then you look back when you get all the way through all of them, you look back and you write the numbers that you circled. Do every single rule to every single number. And I know you're sitting there going, oh, but that's so much work. But the more times you do the rule, the more you remember that rule, and you'll be able to use it again in the future. So you truly need to write all these numbers out. So for 210, you're going to write all these numbers out. And you're going to do the rule for all those numbers, circling, crossing off if you can or cannot do the rule. And then at the end, you look to see what numbers you circled, and you put them for your answer. I truly, truly, truly want you to do the work. Don't just try to do mental math. There are no gold stars for mental math anymore. Okay, do the work. Show your work. Do that for all of these numbers. Really get to understand the rules that we have so you know how to use them. And then at the very bottom, now you have to write two numbers that would be divisible by 2, 3, and 6. So make sure you are writing those. And so figuring out a number that's only divisible by those three numbers. Okay, so 2, 3, and 6, 3 and 5, 2, 3, and 9. So find numbers that are divisible by those. It is a one-pager today. Do your work. Really think it through. If you have questions on any of them, when we go over it tomorrow in class, I'll be able to answer questions. Check with your classmates. Do not copy classmates, but you can ask for help. Remember, helping is explaining, not giving the answer. So make sure if you are helping that you are explaining how to use the rules so your classmates get a better understanding of them. If you do finish before class time is done, we have our Khan Academy that is due on Thursday. We have packet number 3 that is due on November 4th. Practicing memorizing your mysteries of the rosary, that's due on Friday. So lots of stuff to be working on. I hope you are well. I hope to see you soon. Have a wonderful day. And don't forget to like and subscribe.